Until recently, Beppe Grillo was just another controversial Italian comedian. Now he's also the founder of V-Day in Italy. V doesn't stand for victory, but the Italian equivalent of Get Stuffed Day, or something a little more rude. He's raising the V sign to grey-haired, corrupt politicians advocating a revolution in Italian politics. Who is the man behind the headlines?
Chi sono? Je suis Beppe Grillo.
Who am I? I'm Beppe Grillo, a comedian, a variety artist. I started with cabaret, first 1, then 2, then 5. It's like with my blog. First 1 reader, then 2, then thousands.
Blog con la rete. Un commento, 2 commenti, 3.000 commenti.
But Grillo was effectively banned by the Italian media in the mid-1980s for criticising the government.
C'è stato un abbinamento, è successo un miracolo. L'abbinamento della mia persona.
I'm a respected person. In 30 years of speaking out, I've earned respect. And respect is everything if you're in information.
Io mi sono conquistato un po' di reputazione.
If you write something on the net which is wrong, within 24 hours you have 2,000 messages from people telling you you're a liar.
In internet.
So you can't lie.
Delle balle. Dopo 24 ore ti arrivano 2.000 commenti e ti dicono che sei un cialtrone, uno scemo, un stupid. Ti compro? Allora non puoi mentire. E questa è la democrazia.
This is democracy. If you speak through TV and newspapers, you're generally unchallenged. But on the web, your reputation's at stake.
Politici, giornalisti.
Everyone in Italy has tried to start a blog. Politicians, journalists, but they never last.
Mastella ha aperto un blog.
Our Minister of Justice, Clemente Mastella, has one, and he talks about me in it. That's like Gordon Brown in England answering Mr. Bean.
Aprisse un blog per parlare con Mr. Bean. Prodi, che è il nostro
And what about our political leaders? Prodi, Mr. Valium, you know him. He's the one who speaks with his hands. Well, he tried to start a blog. He closed it down 15 days later. Not to mention that psycho dwarf Berlusconi. He doesn't really exist. He's human advertising. He's like a hologram.
Grillo is very proud of his blog. It's Italy's most popular, with more than 200,000 hits a day. One recent poll claimed 50% of Italians would vote for him if he ran for election. When he called rallies supporting his political ideas, more than 300,000 people signed his petition. V-Day every 8th of September is part of that movement.
Questo V-Day che abbiamo fatto l'8 settembre.
This V-Day has been organized in a perfectly constitutional way. It's been marched by 1.5 million people, young people, without any violence and in a very spontaneous way.
Giovani, senza rompere un niente, senza una violenza, senza una bandiera.
The protest movement was born on the internet.
La rete ti dà anche modo di fare manifestazioni non violente stando nella casa tua. Noi ne abbiamo una.
The net provides an opportunity to demonstrate in a non-violent fashion from your own home. We have a protest march going on all the time on our website, beppegrillo.it. It looks like a silly game with tiny, tiny characters. But when you click on one of these tiny little people, and there are 235,000 of them, you'll see it's a real person's name.
Beppe is quick to stress that this is not a protest against politics, but against politicians. He says political parties have tried to ignore him, but they can't anymore because of the size of the movement behind him. He says the way Italian politicians behave, they give him all the ammunition he needs.
We have 24 convicted villains in Parliament. The outlaws are making the laws. 1 in 10 members of Parliament has had a run-in with the law. 1 in 10! 1 in 10 has a criminal record. In the New York Bronx, the number of people involved in crime is estimated to be 1 in 15. The Bronx would fear our Parliament.
Una percentuale nel Bronx di delinquenti è 1 su 15. Il Bronx ha paura del nostro Parlamento.
So, my movement wants a new law. We say no to convicted parliamentarians. Seems perfectly obvious and normal. We say no to people being able to serve more than 2 terms. We don't want professional politicians. 2 mandates is 10 years. In 10 years, you have the time to make a difference. We're not talking 6 months. 10 years.
But is Grillo left or right wing?
That's an old-fashioned way of thinking. There is no left and right.
Non c'è più né destra né sinistra.
The turnout for Beppe Grillo's V-Day stunned the political establishment. Politicians have attacked Grillo as a demagogue, an ignorant popularist who ignores the law. But Grillo doesn't only attack politicians. Earlier this year, he went to the General Assembly for Italian Telecom to demand the resignation of the board. He blamed company chiefs for the state of the industry.
Do the country a favour and show some dignity by leaving, he told them. The owners of huge firms like Telecom Italia are the small investors. Take the CEO. He pretended to be this great capitalist, but then we saw what he really was, a fake. He showed that by his insider trading. In the US, for something like that, he'd have been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Here in Italy, he earned 240 million euros, and now he's sailing in his boat after ruining two companies, Pirelli and Telecom. I went to that meeting to represent the small investors. I asked small investors to delegate me to represent them in order to give them a voice.
Grillo is also well known abroad. In 2005, he was nominated by Time magazine as one of Europe's rebel heroes of the year. He was also the first ever comedian to be invited to the European Parliament, where he announced the V-Day initiative. Beppe's other bête noire is the media, with the exception of one channel, he says, Euronews, and its no-comment feature.
Bellissimo, straordinario.
It's fantastic, it's extraordinary. I posted a comment on Euronews. This is the only news bulletin to watch. And the no comment, silence is marvellous. You can hear the voices. Even in a football match, you can hear the coach screaming. You can feel the game. Italian journalists are useless. They're toast.
Next V-Day, he intends to go after the state-financed Italian media.
We need to cut off the public finance for this rubbish service.
Grillo likes to play the joker, but his message is serious. He even has the Italian president concerned. Giorgio Napolitano says the anti-politician movement is dangerous, and the media should stop its attacks on Italian politics. It seems no one here is listening.